Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun!
In the warm embrace of dawn, light pierced the half-hearted barrier of the blinds, transforming the apartment's hardwood floors into a canvas of shadows and sunlight. Within this sanctuary, a journal lay exposed on the kitchen counter, its pages holding a profound confession, dated half a year old. The script, once bold, wavered as the writer's confidence appeared to falter. Admitting the truth is the first step. It begins. My truth that extends far beyond clothing choices. A cup of coffee, its steam rising like hope, remained ignored in favor of a small pill organizer and an accompanying prescription, the name Jackson Mercer boldly claiming ownership. The medication promised a transformative journey, estradiol patches and progesterone pills, a gateway to a new self. In that serene kitchen, bathed in sunlight, a soul struggled with their identity at the tender age of 28. Their reflection in the mirror spoke volumes. Short brown hair, angular contours, and eyes brimming with fear and resolve. With a whispered pep talk, time to embrace the inevitable, the first step was taken. Then, as if in synchronization, the journal resumed its duty, documenting every day from there on. Emotional shifts, subtle but present. Cried during a commercial about rescue dogs. Not sure if hormones or just the dogs. Week 3. Skin feels different. Softer somehow? Less oily, definitely. Using the patches as directed. Changing every 3 to 4 days. Week 6. Breast tenderness beginning. Doctor says this is normal and expected. Had to buy sports bras to manage discomfort while sleeping. Strange to look down and see the changes beginning. The apartment transformed alongside its occupant. Closets once filled with button-downs and slacks gradually made room for blouses and skirts. A makeup station appeared in the corner of the bedroom, growing more sophisticated as skills improved. The name Estelle began appearing in the journal entries, first in quotation marks, then without them. By month 3, Estelle's brown hair had grown out enough to style differently. She'd decided against wigs, preferring to let her natural hair grow. The soft brown strands now brushed against her shoulders, often styled with gentle waves that framed her softening face. Had dinner with Melanie tonight, read an entry from the 4th month. She noticed my eyeliner without me pointing it out. Small victory. Still used the wrong name 3 times, but she's trying. I can see she's trying. The bathroom cabinet told its own story. Testosterone blockers, estradiol, progesterone, all neatly arranged. A routine had formed, as predictable as the sunrise. Medication, journal, reflection. The most dramatic changes appeared in the wardrobe. What began as a secret collection hidden at the back of the closet now dominated the space. The finance executive's suits remained, but they'd been altered, taken in at the waist, adjusted for the new distribution of weight that hormone therapy had created. Estelle discovered her love for A-line dresses, particularly in deep purple and emerald green. The cuts flattered her developing curves while providing the professional appearance her career in finance demanded. She'd invested in a full-length mirror that stood in the corner of her bedroom, the site of many morning deliberations about outfit choices. Fat redistribution continuing, noted an entry from month 5. Hips and thighs changing most noticeably. Had to donate 3 pairs of pants this week. Strange feeling, like saying goodbye to parts of myself I no longer need. The 6-month milestone approached like a finish line, though Estelle knew her journey was far from complete. She'd made a promise to herself, a reward for reaching this point without wavering. The morning of the 6-month anniversary dawned bright and clear. Estelle stood before the bathroom mirror, wearing a soft cotton robe, her brown hair now long enough to brush just past her shoulders. The face looking back at her had changed. Softer jaw, fuller cheeks, eyes that seemed larger without the testosterone-induced brow ridge shadowing them. 6 months, she whispered to her reflection, touching her face gently. We made it 6 months. The swimsuit had arrived the previous day, carefully selected after weeks of research. A vintage-inspired teal halter top with high-waisted bottoms, modest yet undeniably feminine. It had seemed an impossible dream when she'd ordered it, but now, as she slipped the halter over her head, she found herself holding her breath. The cups of the top, which she'd worried would hang empty, instead curved gently around the small breasts that hormone therapy had developed. Not large by any standard, but unmistakably present. Estelle turned to see her profile, hands moving to her hips where new curves had formed. Congratulations, came a voice from the bedroom doorway. Melanie stood there, a small gift bag dangling from her fingers. Her longtime friend had been the first person Estelle had told about her transition, even before beginning hormones. I didn't hear you come in, Estelle said, wrapping her robe around herself instinctively. Your super let me up. I brought you something. Melanie extended the bag. 6 months is a big deal. Inside the bag was a delicate silver necklace with a small pendant shaped like a butterfly. The symbolism wasn't subtle, but it was perfect. Transformation, Melanie explained unnecessarily. I thought it was appropriate. Tears welled in Estelle's eyes as she fastened the necklace around her neck. Thank you. For this. For being here. For using your right name? For seeing you? Melanie finished. That's what friends do. They spent the morning going through Estelle's closet, Melanie offering fashion advice with her characteristic bluntness. The navy blazer still works, but those gray pants are doing nothing for you now. And this, she held up a mustard yellow sweater, was never doing you any favors, even before. Estelle laughed, the sound more natural than it had been 6 months ago. Her voice hadn't changed dramatically. She'd been working with a voice coach, but hadn't pursued surgical options. But the way she used it had transformed. The pitch was higher, the cadence more melodic. I have a meeting with HR next week, Estelle mentioned as they sorted through her business clothes. To discuss making things official at work. Melanie paused, a burgundy blouse in her hands.
Are you ready for that? As ready as I'll ever be. Most of my team has noticed the changes, even if they haven't said anything. Better to address it directly than let the whispers continue.
The remainder of the day was spent preparing for this next step. They created a spreadsheet of Estelle's existing wardrobe, identifying gaps that needed to be filled for a professional feminine presentation. Pencil skirts in neutral colors would work with her existing blazers. Silk blouses would replace the button-downs. Low heels would substitute for the Oxfords she'd worn for years. You'll need this, Melanie said, ordering a leather portfolio online. The messenger bag is too masculine for the look we're creating. By evening, they'd compiled a complete professional wardrobe suitable for Estelle's position in financial analysis. The cart of online purchases included 3 pencil skirts, black, navy, and gray, 5 silk blouses in various jewel tones, 2 pairs of low heels, the leather portfolio, and a collection of subtle jewelry that would complement, but not distract. What about the name change? Melanie asked as they finished dinner. Legally, I mean. Estelle nodded. Started the paperwork last week. Should be finalized within a few months. They toasted with glasses of white wine, celebrating not just the 6-month milestone, but the steps yet to come. When Melanie left, Estelle returned to her journal, writing the day's events with a steady hand that contrasted sharply with the shaky writing from 6 months prior. The following Monday marked her first day as Estelle at Carson Financial Advisors. She'd selected her outfit carefully, a black pencil skirt that hugged her new curves, an emerald green silk blouse that brought out the hazel in her eyes, and low black heels that clicked confidently against the marble lobby floor. Her brown hair was styled in loose waves, falling just past her shoulders. The makeup she applied was subtle, foundation to smooth her complexion, mascara to enhance her eyes, and a neutral lipstick that added polish without drawing undue attention. The meeting with HR had gone smoothly the previous week. Marcia, the head of human resources, had been supportive and efficient, updating systems and notifying necessary personnel. They'd agreed on an email that would go out Monday morning before Estelle arrived, briefly explaining the transition and requesting colleagues use her correct name and pronouns. The elevator ride to the 14th floor felt eternal. Estelle clutched her new leather portfolio against her chest, a shield between her and whatever reactions awaited. The doors slid open, revealing the familiar reception area of Carson Financial.
Good morning, Ms. Mercer,
greeted Thomas, the receptionist whose eyes widened slightly despite having been briefed. You look lovely today. Thank you, Thomas. Estelle's voice came out steadier than she felt. Has the Henderson report come in yet? The normalcy of the question seemed to relax them both. Just arrived this morning. I've placed it on your desk. Walking to her office, Estelle felt the eyes of her colleagues following her. Some smiled encouragingly. Others quickly looked away, unsure how to react. A few seemed not to recognize her at all until double-taking as they passed. Douglas Chen, her direct supervisor, stood waiting by her office door. His expression was unreadable, which sent a flutter of anxiety through Estelle's stomach. Douglas had always been fair but traditional, and she'd worried most about his reaction.
Estelle,
he said, extending his hand.
Your analysis of the Westbrook portfolio was excellent. The clients were impressed.
Relief washed over her as she shook his hand. Thank you, Douglas. I thought their diversification strategy needed refinement. Agreed. We have the quarterly review at 11. Will you be presenting the tech sector portion as usual? Of course. And just like that, she was working. The day proceeded with a strange mix of the utterly normal and the completely new. Her job hadn't changed. The numbers still needed analyzing, the clients still needed advising, but everything else had shifted. Lunch brought its own challenges as she navigated the cafeteria in heels, balancing her tray while feeling the subtle stares of colleagues who hadn't seen the morning's email. She chose a table near the window, expecting to eat alone when Amanda from the legal department approached. Mind if I join you? Amanda asked, setting down her salad without waiting for an answer. I have questions about the Donovan account, and also I love that blouse. Is it silk? The afternoon meeting went surprisingly well. Estelle's presentation on technology sector investments was received with the same professional respect she'd always been accorded. If anyone was distracted by her appearance, they hid it well. By 5 o'clock, exhaustion had set in, not from the work itself, but from the constant awareness of being observed, evaluated, categorized. Estelle packed her portfolio, switched off her computer, and headed for the elevator, allowing herself to believe the worst might be over. Drinks? Came a voice behind her. Rebecca from accounting stood there, coat already on. "A bunch of us are heading to Marlowe's. You should come." Estelle hesitated. After-work drinks had never been her thing, even before transition, but the casual inclusion felt significant. "Just one," she agreed. Marlowe's was crowded with the after-work financial district crowd. Rebecca led the way to a corner table where 3 other Carson employees had already claimed space. Introductions were made for the benefit of a new hire who hadn't met Estelle before.
Vodka tonic?
Asked Michael from the trading desk, already heading to the bar. "Perfect," Estelle confirmed, surprised he remembered her drink order from holiday parties past. The conversation flowed easily, touching on work, weekend plans, and a new restaurant that had opened nearby. No one mentioned her transition directly, but there was an undercurrent of curiosity that surfaced in glances that lingered too long, in questions about whether she'd always lived in the city. One drink stretched to 2. By the time Estelle left, the initial awkwardness had dissolved into something approaching normal socialization. Walking to the subway, she realized her feet hurt from the unaccustomed heels, but the discomfort felt like a badge of honor. That night, her journal entry was brief, but significant. First day as Estelle at work. Survived. More than survived. Existed as myself. The weeks that followed established new patterns. Estelle's wardrobe expanded as her confidence grew. The pencil skirts were joined by A-line options in various colors. The silk blouses multiplied, creating a section of the closet that rivaled a boutique in its variety. Low heels gave way to more statement options as her balance improved. The 7-month mark came and went with less fanfare than the 6-month milestone, but with a deeper sense of permanence. Estelle no longer startled at her reflection in storefront windows. Her signature brown hair now reached the middle of her back, often styled in loose waves or a sleek ponytail for work. Client meetings presented their own unique challenges. Many long-term clients had known Jackson for years, and not all had been notified of the transition. Estelle developed a measured approach to these encounters, leading with her expertise and addressing any confusion directly but briefly. "Yes, I've undergone some personal changes," she would say if asked. "But my commitment to your financial security remains constant." Now, about those emerging markets. Most clients followed her lead, focusing on the reason for their meeting rather than her appearance. A few were uncomfortable, and one elderly client requested a different advisor. Estelle logged these reactions in her journal without judgment, understanding that everyone's capacity for adaptation varied. The legal name change process moved forward with bureaucratic slowness. Each form filed, each notarization obtained, felt like another brick in the foundation of her new life. The day she received official notification that her name change had been approved, she treated herself to a new dress, a deep purple wrap style that accentuated her waist and complemented her brown hair. "We should celebrate," insisted Melanie when Estelle called with the news. "Dinner at Luciano's. My treat." Luciano's was upscale Italian, the kind of place that required reservations weeks in advance, but Melanie had connections. They were seated at a prime table near the windows, the city lights twinkling beyond the glass. Estelle wore her new purple dress with black heels and the butterfly necklace Melanie had given her. Her brown hair was swept into an elegant updo, exposing the delicate line of her neck and the small diamond studs in her ears. Another recent investment in her feminine presentation. "To Estelle Mercer," Melanie toasted, raising her glass of champagne. "Officially and forever." Estelle clinked her glass against her friend's. "Thank you for being here for every step." "Even the awkward ones?" "Especially the awkward ones." They laughed, remembering the early days of the transition, The makeup experiments that had gone horribly wrong, the first attempts at walking in heels that had nearly ended in sprained ankles, the voice practice sessions that had dissolved into giggles. Remember when you tried to contour like that YouTube tutorial? Melanie snickered. I looked like I'd been in a coal mine, Estelle agreed. Or that time I tried to straighten my hair and nearly set off the smoke alarm? Their reminiscing was interrupted by the arrival of their appetizers. Burrata with heirloom tomatoes for Melanie, grilled octopus for Estelle. Ms. Mercer. A man in a tailored suit stood beside their table, expression pleasant but professional. Estelle tensed slightly, not recognizing him immediately. Yes? Thomas Harrington, BlackRock Investments. We met at the Financial Analysts Conference last year. Recognition dawned. She had attended the conference as Jackson, presenting a paper on risk assessment in emerging markets. The memory felt distant, as if it had happened to someone else. Of course, Mr. Harrington. How are you? If he was surprised by her transformation, he hid it well. Very well, thank you. I was impressed by your presentation and wondered if you'd considered our opening for a senior analyst position. Your work on the Brazilian market was particularly insightful. He offered a business card, which Estelle accepted with a slight nod. I'm quite happy at Carson, but I'm flattered by your interest. The offer remains open. Please reach out if you'd like to discuss it further. With a polite nod to both women, he returned to his own table across the restaurant. Melanie raised an eyebrow once he was out of earshot. Job offer based on actual merit? That's a good sign. He knew me before, Estelle said quietly, turning the business card over in her fingers. At the conference, I was still presenting as Jackson then. And he still wants to recruit you. That says something about your work, and about how he sees you. The interaction boosted Estelle's confidence, affirming that her professional identity remained intact despite the personal changes. The rest of the dinner passed pleasantly, with discussions about future plans, Melanie's upcoming gallery showing, Estelle's consideration of facial feminization surgery, their shared dream of a Mediterranean cruise. By the time they stepped out into the cool night air, Estelle felt a profound sense of rightness. The journey hadn't been easy, but each step had led her closer to authenticity. The next morning, Estelle added Thomas Harrington's card to her professional contacts file, not because she intended to leave Carson, but because the interaction represented a milestone. Recognition of her capabilities, regardless of her gender presentation. 9 months into hormone therapy, the physical changes had become more subtle, but continued nonetheless. Her face had softened further, the redistribution of fat creating more feminine contours. The emotional changes were harder to categorize, but equally significant. A sense of alignment between inner experience and outer expression that had been absent before. Her journal entries became less focused on physical changes and more reflective of broader life shifts. Had dinner with Mom tonight. First time she's called me Estelle without correcting herself. Progress. Joined the Women's Investment Networking Group. Nervous at first, but everyone was welcoming. Made 3 good contacts. Realized today I haven't thought about passing in weeks. Just living. The wardrobe that had begun as a careful curation of professional attire expanded to include weekend clothes, athletic wear, and even a selection of evening options. The deep purple and emerald green remained favorites, complementing her brown hair and hazel eyes, but Estelle experimented with other colors and styles as her confidence grew. The 1-year anniversary of beginning hormone replacement therapy approached with the weight of significance. Estelle planned no grand celebration, but instead took a personal day from work, scheduling appointments that represented the ongoing nature of her transition. Morning brought a consultation with a voice coach to refine the techniques she'd been practicing. Afternoon included a meeting with her endocrinologist to review hormone levels and adjust medications as needed. Evening was reserved for dinner with the small circle of friends who had supported her throughout the process. The restaurant was intimate, a farm-to-table place with wooden tables and ambient lighting. Estelle arrived early, wearing a deep purple dress that had become something of a signature, her brown hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders. She'd chosen simple jewelry, the butterfly necklace from Melanie, and small pearl earrings that had been a gift from her mother. Melanie arrived first, followed by Javier from Estelle's department at Carson, then Robin and her husband Paul, friends from Estelle's college days who had enthusiastically embraced her transition. The final arrival was Estelle's younger brother Mark, who had flown in from Chicago specifically for the occasion. The table quickly filled with conversation, laughter, and shared memories. They ordered family-style, passing dishes between them with the easy familiarity of people comfortable in each other's presence.
"Speech," demanded Javier after the entrees had been cleared, raising his wine glass. "1 year deserves acknowledgement."
Estelle felt heat rise to her cheeks, but stood, straightening the skirt of her purple dress. The restaurant was quiet enough that she wouldn't need to project her voice, a skill she was still perfecting. "A year ago," she began, "I sat alone in my kitchen and took the first step on a journey I'd been avoiding my entire life. I was terrified, but also more certain than I'd ever been about anything." She paused, looking at each face around the table. "What I couldn't have known then was how completely my life would transform, not just physically, but in every way that matters. I found courage I didn't know I possessed. I discovered who truly stood beside me and who couldn't make that journey." Her voice softened as she continued. "Most importantly, I found myself, the person I was always meant to be, but couldn't allow myself to become. Estelle was always there, waiting for permission to exist." She raised her glass. "To authenticity, to patience through change, and to all of you who saw me even when I was hiding." They drank together, the moment heavy with emotion that dissolved into comfortable conversation as desserts arrived. The evening stretched pleasantly, no one in a hurry to end the celebration. Walking home later, Estelle felt a profound sense of contentment. The year had brought challenges she couldn't have anticipated and joys she'd never expected. Her body had changed, yes, but more fundamentally, her relationship with herself had transformed. In her apartment, before preparing for bed, she opened the brown leather journal that had documented every step of her journey. The early entries seemed written by a different person, someone uncertain, afraid, yet determined. The progression through the pages told a story of emergence, of becoming. Estelle removed the deep purple dress, hanging it carefully in the closet beside its emerald green counterpart. Her wardrobe now reflected not just her gender, but her personality, professional yet creative, understated yet confident. Her evening routine had evolved over the year: cleansing, toning, moisturizing, a careful removal of the day's makeup. The bathroom counter held products she'd researched extensively, each selected for specific purposes. The medicine cabinet contained her hormone medications, no longer strange, but simply part of daily life. In comfortable silk pajamas, Estelle settled at her desk and opened the journal to a fresh page. She wrote the date at the top, then paused, considering all that had happened in the year since beginning hormone replacement therapy. Finally, she wrote, "1 year. The journey continues, but today I pause to acknowledge how far I've come. Not just the physical changes, though those have been significant, but the internal shift from hiding to living authentically. I am Estelle Mercer. This is not a costume I put on or a role I play. This is who I am, who I have always been beneath the layers of expectation and fear. Tomorrow begins year 2. I face it not with the trepidation of the unknown, but with the confidence of someone who has already faced her greatest challenge, becoming herself. The brown-haired woman in the mirror is me.
The name on my identification cards is mine. The life I'm building is authentic. I am home in myself at last.
She closed the journal, placed it in the drawer of her nightstand, and turned out the light. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges and triumphs, but tonight, on the anniversary of her first step toward authenticity, Estelle Mercer slept peacefully, completely herself.
Thanks for watching, my girlies. Be sure to check out Patreon for more.